process any type of emotions or receive love. Like, I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know how to accept it nor return it. It really affected how I dealt with relationships, friendships, careers, just because I didn't even know how certain emotions or certain situations would look like. I didn't know what was normal.
We have these wounds inside, right, that I think a lot of us want to heal. We attempt to heal them in so many different ways, whether it's substance that helps numb these wounds a little bit, or reckless sexual behaviors where we're trying to connect, where we're chasing intimacy, but it's still a little bit different, or, burying ourselves in work, like all this stuff that we're trying to do to feel normal, like you say. What I'm hearing is like a larger acceptance of just you as you are, that you don't have to perform, that you don't have to be like a specific model of someone in order to be worthy of anything. You really accomplished a lot.
Thank you.
What would you say were your initial goals? I mean, past the point of like being forced into therapy, when did it become a choice to you?
There'd be times where I would look forward to therapy and things would happen throughout the week. And I used to go to therapy once a week. I would leave the house and I would just be like, my therapist is going to get an earful today. Like, I couldn't wait to share what I was going through with my therapist, like someone who understands, wasn't judging me, someone who can break it down for me. And that was really refreshing because I still don't really have that support system family-wise. So having that one person in my life that I can trust and turn to, it was amazing.
Somebody that's listening to you to respond to you about you. You mentioned like, I don't have this in my family. And like even people with very loving, very caring, very well-meaning families still don't really always have that with family because those good intentions also come with their own baggage and their own feelings and their own agendas of what they want between them and you. So somebody to break it down, just hear you out, help mirror stuff, right? Like therapists say, like, we're just here to hold up a mirror, right? To help you see yourself a little bit better. Because we all go through trauma that makes it very difficult for us to like see past all this stuff that we build up to protect ourselves from future traumas. In therapy, the therapist asks you a lot of questions. What's your sense of like what these questions are for? Why do we ask so many questions? Or why do you think that we ask so many questions?
In the beginning, obviously, I'm just like nosy. I'm like, okay, like what else? Like, geez, my Social Security too? But really, it's come to find out, like, again, holding the mirror up, it's really reflection on like who you are as a person. How'd you become this person? Why are you acting this way? So every question, there is really intention behind it. It's not just some aimless question, like trying to be nosy, like they're not judging you. So I feel like every single question from my therapist, she was just looking out for me and wanted to help me become more aware of why I was behaving a certain way or acting or thinking a certain way.
Yeah, the questions, intention. I like that you used that because, sometimes therapists who are just people, sometimes those curious questions, or how you would say nosy, they do pop up here and there. But it is like a therapist's kind of duty to refrain from doing that. Like you might be talking about something from your life and then you mention like a restaurant that I've been to, and my initial reaction of wanting to talk about and make this connection like, oh, I've been there and I got this item from the menu. Like those things, we often refrain from that because in therapy, it is about you. Of course, it's going to somewhat be about me because I'm a human and we're connecting as two people and my experiences, beliefs, and values are going to be present in this room. But it's very important for therapists not to impose those things, right? Or like make you have particular goals or try to get you to think the way that I do.
Very unbiased. Very non-judgmental. It was very neutral. Like you said, she didn't try to impose her opinions or thoughts to a certain extent with the thoughts. But opinions, she never really did that.
Right. The opinion stuff, we're taught and trained to like leave that stuff outside the door, go to your own therapy so you're really sure of what your stances on a bunch of stuff are so that you don't have to come into a session and argue with clients about it. Especially in like, heated climates like we have in current modern society.
I can't imagine going to a therapy session and she's telling me, no, you're wrong. I'm just like, we're having like this debate. You know what I mean? It's not like that at all.
I'm very glad you had that, because a personal experience, which I think a lot of people can relate to, is we turn to sometimes a best friend, an older family member, maybe our mom. We turn to these people with the expectation that they will be there for us without judgment, that they'll respond to us in a way that's loving and caring and nurturing. And a lot of times those responses are loving, caring, and nurturing, but they're also filled with the judgment, the criticisms of, you could have done it this way. It probably would have been better if you thought about it this way. So family, very well-meaning, but also emotionally charged, also like entangled into your life, and they have their own like motivations, things that they're trying to accomplish to propel this relationship in whatever direction.
When you're in such a vulnerable state and you don't know what's going on, and even though maybe a family member has the great intentions and they're basically putting their thoughts and opinions onto you, you're in a really vulnerable state and you might take their advice and it's just totally wrong and totally not the right direction to go. So even though family members are supportive, therapy is definitely highly recommended from my end.
Makes me wonder, like, what big differences, you've shared some already, but some other differences that you can think of between going to like a really close friend for support versus talking to a therapist.
So even just when I was a teenager, I turned to my best friend, and it's not her fault because she's not licensed. She's just a kid too. And I'm like, hey, I think I'm really depressed. And she's like, you're not depressed. You're just sad. You're just like, okay. And then my ex-boyfriend, from around that time, I would try to express my thoughts and my concerns. And he thought I was looking for attention and make little like snickers with his friends. Like, oh my God, this girl's crazy. You know what I mean? Like psycho. And at this point, you're just, like, you don't even understand it yourself. She's like, oh, I am psycho. I'm real crazy. Like, I'm going to show you crazy. And then, like, you act on that, because that's what you believe you are. And my mom, that's a different story. I tried telling her, I'm like, I'm so angry. I feel this way. I'm like, I don't understand why. Like, I think I need help. And I didn't know what was wrong with me or why I'm this way. I just knew it wasn't normal. And she doesn't even have the depth to understand such a concept. And so maybe she cared for me, but she wasn't the ideal person to try to go for help. And so those were my three closest people in my life. Again, it's not my ex-boyfriend's fault or my best friend's fault. They don't know any better.
Yeah.
But as a parental figure, I definitely needed more guidance and more direction. And a lot of people don't have that. And I think that's another thing that steered me away from wanting to receive any more help, just because of those kind of experiences. I'm like, wow, no one understands and no one's going to want to help me.
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when I open up, is I'm met with like rejection or someone withdrawing or someone shutting down or someone telling me I'm wrong, invalidating my experience, saying that I'm not really feeling the thing that I think I'm feeling.
You feel like you shouldn't be feeling this way. Like you don't have a right to, or like you're just looking for attention, or people have it worse. Like, why do you feel that way? You have no right to feel that way. So that really does affect you. And how you portray people.
There are people out there that have it much worse than you. I think that is like someone's attempt to help you feel better because they're like trying to minimize the issue that you're bringing to them. Or even your friend, like, you're not depressed, you're just sad. I can see that being a 16-year-old solid attempt at making the situation less scary, but not just for you, but less scary for her.
Oh, yeah.
Same thing with your ex-boyfriend, like making a joke of this thing that you're bringing up that's actually really uncomfortable for you. A lot of people respond that way because they don't know how else to handle it. They can't hold space for it because they're not really sure what to do. And they start feeling heightened. They start feeling emotional themselves. And then their own defense mechanisms start coming out. And some people use humor, which can be very harmful to like the people around 100%. Them. Yeah. And then, with mom, it's a lot of moms. They really mean well, but they are also people. And a lot of moms plenty of moms have been to therapy, but I think a lot of them haven't. And this thing that you mentioned of like, maybe she doesn't have the depth. It's probably she doesn't have the training. She doesn't have the understanding to help you feel safe in the feelings that you're having. And also, our parents' first instinct is like, oh my God, my child is hurt. I have to make them feel better. Versus my child is hurt. We're going to hold space for that and let them know it's okay to be hurt. Right? And that's like a big difference between parents and a therapist. A therapist is not going to try to immediately put a Band-Aid on it, but it's like, let's like really get in there.
Let's take the Band-Aid off. Let's see how bad is this wound? Like, what happened to it? Like, how'd you even get the wound? You know what I mean?
Oh, the wound, bring it back. I think I forgot to close that loop. We have wounds inside and we do all these things trying to heal them. Ultimately, if you don't heal that stuff, it will end up like bleeding out on other people.
Other people, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, the gory
all over
scene.
The place.
Yeah, the gory scene of like our emotional blood and baggage just like following us around everywhere. And it's contagious. It's like any feeling is contagious when you're with other people, and when you're not well, other people feel that, right?
Yeah,
So,
like I imagine a cloud over me. It's just raining. Have my boyfriend here. He's getting rained on. It's poured. And I feel like it was almost my fault. Like, I brought this into your life. Like, you didn't deserve this. I really felt like I was bringing people down with me, and they didn't need that. And that was another thing that led to why I did what I did. Everyone would be better off without me. So if you don't address the help, blood's everywhere,
I think we're touching on so many stuff that's very relatable to a lot of people. And I'm hearing you sing praises of how therapy's been helpful. Like, what would you say to someone that's like maybe in a similar headspace to where you were before, of thinking like, it's just not going to help? Anytime I've tried to open up to somebody, it led to something worse for me. Any pieces of advice to give to someone that's still very skeptical, resistant, fearful of trying this thing?
Number one, I would say, do not tell them how you think they should feel. So if you try to tell someone, like, they're going to automatically tune you out. Like, you're automatically disqualified, like, in bad. Like, who are you to tell me? Because, like, so just listen to them. Listen to what they have to say. And I wouldn't, again, put your opinions or your personal thoughts on it. For me personally, because I have been through it, I would just be there with them. And this is so powerful to me. Rather than, oh, you should do this, I would say, we should go to therapy. Like, let me help you find somebody, because I didn't have that support. I didn't have someone who's going to hold my hand and help me find the help. So for me, I would just hold their hand and try to find somewhere to get them help that they feel comfortable.
And you're like, I'm feeling like emotional, because that's what you're doing here, right? You're like figuratively holding the hands now of so many people by sharing your experience and being so open about all this stuff that you've been through, and like, rehashing a lot of your own thought process from the past that weren't very healthy. Sometimes people just need permission. I don't know if that's like from themselves or from other people to do something good and do something nice for themselves, nice for me. And while your journey to therapy wasn't quite like, I'm going to do this for me today. At some point you were choosing to keep going back.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And would you ever do it again? Would you ever go back
100%.
to therapy?
I already know I'm going to go back to therapy, not because I'm depressed, but because I just need that extra helping hand. You know what I mean? I definitely think I'll need therapy for the rest of my life. Not because there's something wrong with me or like I'm suicidal again or something like that, just because it really is helpful.
What's helpful about it?
It really helps you understand why you feel a certain way about a certain situation. And I know as I get older, maybe marriage or kids, I'll have those conflicts of like, I'm letting my child down. I can't provide for them. And, that will probably stem from how I feel certain times today, or how I can't provide for myself. And I know that probably will not be the case as I get older, but I'm sure therapy will help me understand that.
So it's helpful for navigating life's everyday challenges, right? Like, we're all posed with 1,000 decisions to make per day. And most of the time we're making those decisions largely on our own. Mm-hmm. And that's an interesting thing about therapy. It's not that your therapist is making further decisions for you, but helping you identify what decisions like lie in there already. Mm-hmm. Like, you already know the answers and the truth to what life is. we all know that for ourselves somewhere deep inside. And I think therapy really helps us like unlock this stuff that we've pushed down. Things like not having confidence or not believing in ourselves to make the right choices, or not feeling worthy, not feeling adequate. It really makes it hard to listen to ourselves and to hear those deep down truths that already exist.
Yeah, like you don't believe the truths at all. Like you could look in the mirror and be like, "You're so ugly." Like obviously, like you're not ugly. You know what I mean? But all truths are out the window, and like you don't even value your opinions
when you're dealing with like mental health issues. Yeah. So you mentioned you've experienced depression, which does sometimes include feeling sad, but like how did depression manifest in your life? Like what made you feel like this is the word I'm going to use to describe how I'm feeling to other people? For somebody listening to this conversation, like that might be feeling depressed themselves, but they don't have the words to articulate that yet. Like what would you clue them
100%.
into? Like how do you know that you're depressed?
For me, I was very, very angry. The moment I woke up, I just filled with so much rage. And it'd be to the point where I just want to cry. That's how like angry I was. And obviously, you're being suicidal. I don't want to live. Like, that's not normal. Like, I just want to end my life. And you're sitting there, have a pros and cons list, trying to think out like, okay, like, why should I not do it? Like, that's not normal. And just constantly feeling worthless, like not feeling like you deserve to live. These I knew were not normal. I felt that way like as a young child. It started with the anger. That's why I can tell you it started with anger.
And that's insight, because if you ask a therapist, how does depression manifest in youth, in small children? And anger is actually something that someone needs to assess for. Temper tantrums, this like really dysregulated way of being. If you're waking up really pissed off every day, that's not normal.
Yeah, and I definitely encourage parents, because I see it a lot. Like if a child does act out, all children act out, but if it's like a constant pattern and you're punishing them, I think that's like the worst. I'm like, no, take a moment, listen to your child, try to have a conversation and understand why are they feeling this way. And you'd probably learn a lot about your child and realize punishing them, sending them to the room, making it worse essentially is not the way to go. But getting help, and it's probably the parent needs help too. It's a partnership between the child and the parent.
Yeah. Some education around just emotions, how they creep up, like what they look like in kids. I mean, small kids especially, like their primary language is not English or whatever language it is where they're growing up. It's play. They understand the world through how they play, how they engage in a very active way outside of just like verbal communication. So yes, like paying attention to kids' mood. So you paying attention to your own mood and recognizing something's not normal.
Yeah, and if my mom was more aware and more educated about something like that, I probably wouldn't have grew up the way I did in certain ways.
Yeah, and plenty of parents, they mean well. They really tried their best. It speaks to like the importance of education around emotional intelligence and maybe incorporating a little bit more into like standard curriculums at school, how to just like tune into your feelings, how your feelings affect your everyday life. I imagine many of us could have benefited if our moms were a little bit more aware about all this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I don't mean to laugh, but some people are really are clueless, I should say. And I really think it's very helpful to start with children or even teenagers. I think that's really where it begins, because that's where you start to become programmed to be a certain way. And you're going to move out of your parents' house and you're going to live your life, but yet you're still acting a certain way. And like you don't even realize it's coming from your childhood. Like you just think you're some like adult with an anger problem, or you're just like super depressed. Like you don't even know why. And that will carry on with you if you don't recognize that you have a mental health problem.
And therapy helped you in those ways of recognition and, connecting the dots between what happens in childhood and how you're relating to other people now.
Thank you, Ashley, for opening up so much and sharing about your journey. It's really just sitting and listening to you both have a discussion about the journey you've been on, also hearing you open up about your feelings as someone who's in the room observing. It's actually really quite remarkable when you get to just be patient and listen to someone reflect on their own emotions, because it encourages you to do the same for yourself. And so I know that, to the hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people that will listen to this afterwards, I'm hoping that everyone who's listening and watching is also thinking about the questions that Hesu is asking, thinking about the ideas that you're mentioning, and are gaining that self-awareness and that regulation of their emotions and the understanding of themselves. Because it's strange to sit in on a conversation. I think most of the time we spend our time in conversations thinking, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
Like, oh, what should I say back to that person? And obviously, as we see with Hesu, what she's doing is she's trying not to project her own feelings so that she can truly listen to you. And then I've just been silent for the last nearly 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And that's actually a really powerful practice, true, because now you're not sitting there thinking, what should I say? Or how do I sound? Or, oh, I can relate or not relate, or judging, but I can just observe. And so I think this has been a really powerful practice, even for me, to just sit and listen and sit and hear. I think it's just been a healthy conversation to have a discussion about, the benefits you've seen and the growth you've seen. And I think that's a great starting point for this series in just understanding the benefits of therapy, and someone who's, committed to 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Someone who's committed to 2 years of therapy and the benefits they've seen. So I'm very happy with the fact that everyone who's been listening and watching has had the opportunity to sit in on a conversation with a therapist and see where some of the questioning can go. And also to sit with someone who has done therapy, who is able to articulate and explain their experiences, clearly and concisely.
I know there's a lot of people who are like me. Like, I don't have a family to turn to, or at the time, many friends. I didn't have a huge support system. So I really, truly felt very, very alone. So to take those steps, it takes a lot of courage. And I hope people listening really take away, like, even though I am alone, like I don't have that support system, there's still hope for me. Like, I'm still worthy. And I really, 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 really hope that they do their research and really find someone they connect with. And I do not want them to just get discouraged if they get a therapist and they're not connecting, because not every therapist is going to be for you. And I think it's very, very important to find the one that is for you. And I really just hope people who are listening really, 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 really do receive the help that they need, because there's nothing wrong or negative about therapy whatsoever. It truly is life-changing, and I do not regret it at all. I know I'm going to do it again, and I'm so grateful for my therapist. When we were on the phone during the COVID times, and we were like saying our goodbyes. She's like, "I'm so proud of you, Ashley. Like, you really have come so far." And I just started crying, because she really was almost kind of like that mother figure that I never really had. And like, someone who truly cared about me and wanted better for me.
Yeah. You're describing so many like pinnacles of things that therapists learn about in grad school. Like, psychologists love to label human behaviors with all kinds of words and stuff. But like the therapist becoming like a mother figure to you, that happens a lot, right? It's what we call like a corrective emotional experience. This person that is validating of you, that can listen to you, nurture you, kind of show you what gentle love and acceptance looks like and feels like in a really controlled, safe setting. And it's not that like, therapists are not set out to like become your new family or anything like that. But I think experiences that come through sessions can help someone recognize like, I can create my own family, whatever that means to me. Like the stuff that I feel like is supposed to come from family, which is love, acceptance, support. I can provide that to myself, and I can learn how to do that.
Yes.
With this other person that can model for me, because unfortunately my mom didn't, or, whatever it is.
Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for helping us sit in on that conversation and to observe and learn and listen. And just really grateful for both of your honesty and transparency, and Hesu for guiding this conversation and,
Thank you.
asking really
amazing,
insightful, thoughtful questions to really extrapolate the learnings. And I hope everyone who's been listening and watching back at home, you felt you've got a bit more of an insight. And we're going to be doing a lot of these episodes where we dive into different themes, have different conversations, look at this from different angles. And I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you learned, what surprised you, maybe something you didn't expect, or maybe something that you felt reassured by. I'd genuinely love to hear from you. So make sure you share your feedback in the reviews on Instagram, on Twitter. Wherever else you're active, please do let us know, because I'm always looking out to see what is it that resonated with you, what is it that connected with you. And for those of you who don't know, this episode was brought to you by BetterHelp, which is helping millions of people by making professional therapy more affordable and accessible than ever. And I have shared my own top 3 reasons why I believe everyone can try therapy. And to check that out, you can visit betterhelp.com/Jay's top 3. And so that's better, HELP.com/Jay's, JAYS, that's my name, TOP3. And when you do that, everyone who does that will get 10% off your first month of online therapy when you sign up as well. So that's for our On Purpose listeners. And so remember that you deserve to invest in yourself, and BetterHelp is a great way to start to do that. Thank you so much to Hesu. Thank you to